Guinness is a popular Irish dry stout that originated in the brewery of Arthur Guinness at St James's Gate, Dublin. Guinness is one of the most successful beer brands worldwide. It is brewed in almost 60 countries and is available in over 120. Annual sales total 850 million litres. A feature of the product is the burnt flavour that is derived from roasted unmalted barley, although this is a relatively modern development, not becoming part of the grist until the mid-20th century. For many years a portion of aged brew was blended with freshly brewed beer to give a sharp lactic flavour. Although the Guinness palate still features a characteristic tang, the company has refused to confirm whether this type of blending still occurs. The draught beer's thick, creamy head comes from mixing the beer with nitrogen when poured. It is popular with the Irish both in Ireland and abroad, and, in spite of a decline in consumption since 2001, is still the best-selling alcoholic drink in Ireland where Guinness & Company makes almost $2 billion annually. The company has had its headquarters in London from 1932 onwards. It merged with Grand Metropolitan plc in 1997, and is now part of the British-based multinational alcoholic drinks producer Diageo. History. Arthur Guinness started brewing ales from 1759 at the St James's Gate Brewery, Dublin. On December 31, 1759 he signed a 9,000-year lease at £45 per annum for the unused brewery. 10 years later, on May 19, 1769, Guinness first exported his ale. He shipped 6.5 barrels to Great Britain. Stout originally referred to a beer's strength, but eventually shifted meaning toward body and colour. Arthur Guinness started selling the dark beer porter in 1778. The first Guinness beers to use the term were single stout and double stout in the 1840s. Throughout the bulk of its history, Guinness produced only 3 variations of a single beer type, porter or single stout, double or extra and foreign stout for export. Porter was also referred to as plain, as referenced in the famous refrain of Flann O'Brien's poem The Workman's Friend, a pint of plain is your only man. Already one of the top 3 British and Irish brewers, Guinness's sales soared from 350,000 barrels in 1868 to 779,000 barrels in 1876. In October 1886 Guinness became a public company, and was averaging sales of 1,138,000 barrels a year. This was despite the brewery's refusal to either advertise or offer its beer at a discount. Even though Guinness owned no public houses, the company was valued at £6 million and shares were 20 times oversubscribed, with share prices rising to a 60% premium on the first day of trading. The breweries pioneered several quality control efforts. The brewery hired the statistician William Seeley Gossett in 1899, who achieved lasting fame under the pseudonym Student for techniques developed for Guinness, particularly Student's tea distribution and the even more commonly known Student's tea test. By 1900 the brewery was operating unparalleled welfare schemes for its 5,000 employees. By 1907 the welfare schemes were costing the brewery £40,000 a year, which was 1/5 of the total wages bill. The improvements were suggested and supervised by Sir John Lumsden. By 1914, Guinness was producing 2,652,000 barrels of beer a year, which was more than double that of its nearest competitor Bass, and was supplying more than 10% of the total UK beer market. In the 1930s, Guinness became the 7th largest company in the world. Before 1939, if a Guinness brewer wished to marry a Catholic, his resignation was requested. According to Thomas Molloy, writing in the Irish Independent, it had no qualms about selling drink to Catholics but it did everything it could to avoid employing them until the 1960s. Guinness brewed their last porter in 1973. In the 1970s, following declining sales, the decision was taken to make Guinness Extra Stout more drinkable. The gravity was subsequently reduced, and the brand was relaunched in 1981. Pale malt was used for the first time, and isomerized hop extract began to be used. Guinness acquired the Distillers Company in 1986. This led to a scandal and criminal trial concerning the artificial inflation of the Guinness share price during the takeover bid engineered by the chairman, Ernest Saunders. A subsequent £5.2 million success fee paid to an American lawyer and Guinness director, Tom Ward, was the subject of the case Guinness plc v Saunders, in which the House of Lords declared that the payment had been invalid. In the 1980s, as the IRA's bombing campaign spread to London and the rest of Britain, Guinness considered scrapping the harp as its logo. The company merged with Grand Metropolitan in 1997 to form Diageo plc. Due to controversy over the merger, the company was maintained as a separate entity within the Diageo and has retained the rights to the product and all associated trademarks of Guinness. The Guinness Brewery in Park Royal, London closed in 2005. The production of all Guinness sold in the UK and Ireland was moved to St James's Gate Brewery, Dublin. Guinness has also been referred to as the Black Stuff. Guinness had a fleet of ships, barges and yachts. The Irish Sunday Independent newspaper reported on June 17, 2007 that Diageo intended to close the historic St James's Gate plant in Dublin and moving to a greenfield site on the outskirts of the city. This news caused some controversy when it was announced. The following day, the Irish Daily Mail ran a follow-up story with a double-page spread complete with images and a history of the plant since 1759. Initially, Diageo said that talk of a move was pure speculation, but in the face of mounting speculation in the wake of the Sunday Independent article, the company confirmed that it is undertaking a significant review of its operations. This review is largely due to the efforts of the company's ongoing drive to reduce the environmental impact of brewing at the St James's Gate plant. On November 23, 2007, an article appeared in the Evening Herald, a Dublin newspaper, stating that Dublin City Council, in the best interests of the City of Dublin, had put forward a motion to prevent planning permission ever being granted for development of the site, thus making it very difficult for Diageo to sell off the site for residential development. On May 9, 2008, Diageo announced that the St James's Gate Brewery will remain open and undergo renovations, but that breweries in Kilkenny and Dundalk will be closed by 2013 when a new larger brewery is opened near Dublin. The result will be a loss of roughly 250 jobs across the entire Diageo Guinness workforce in Ireland. 2 days later, the Sunday Independent again reported that Diageo chiefs had met with Tánaiste Mary Coughlan, the deputy leader of the Government of Ireland, about moving operations to Ireland from the UK to benefit from its lower corporation tax rates. Several UK firms have made the move to pay Ireland's 12.5% rate rather than the UK's 28% rate. Diageo released a statement to the London Stock Exchange denying the report. Despite the merger that created Diageo plc in 1997, Guinness has retained its right to the Guinness brand and associated trademarks and thus continues to trade under the traditional Guinness name despite trading under the corporation name Diageo for a brief period in 1997. Composition: Guinness Stout is made from water, barley, roast malt extract, hops, and brewer's yeast. A portion of the barley is roasted to give Guinness its dark color and characteristic taste. It is pasteurized and filtered. Making the product requires knowledge in the sciences of microbiology, mycology, bacteriology, and thermodynamics. Despite its reputation as a meal in a glass, Guinness only contains 198 kilocalories per imperial pint, fewer than skimmed milk or orange juice and most other non-light beers. Until the late 1950s, Guinness was still racked into wooden casks. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, aluminium kegs began replacing the wooden casks. These were nicknamed iron lungs. Draft Guinness and its canned counterpart contain nitrogen as well as carbon dioxide. Nitrogen is less soluble than carbon dioxide, which allows the beer to be put under high pressure without making it fizzy. The high pressure of dissolved gas is required to enable very small bubbles to be formed by forcing the draft beer through fine holes in a plate in the tap, which causes the characteristic surge. The perceived smoothness of draft Guinness is due to its low level of carbon dioxide and the creaminess of the head caused by the very fine bubbles that arise from the use of nitrogen and the dispensing method described above. Original Extra Stout contains only carbon dioxide, causing a more acidic taste. Contemporary Guinness Draft and Extra Stout are weaker than they were in the 19th century, when they had an original gravity of over 1.070. Foreign Extra Stout and Special Export Stout, with ABV of 7.5% and 9% respectively, are perhaps closest to the original in character. Although Guinness may appear to be black, it is officially a very dark shade of ruby. Bottle-conditioned Guinness Extra Stout was available in the UK until 1994, and in Ireland until early 2000. Guinness and health. Studies claim that Guinness can be beneficial to the heart. Researchers found that antioxidant compounds in the Guinness, similar to those found in certain fruits and vegetables, are responsible for the health benefits because they slow down the deposit of harmful cholesterol on the artery walls. Guinness ran an advertising campaign in the 1920s which stemmed from market research a euro. When people told the company that they felt good after their pint, the slogan was born: a euro Guinness is good for you. Advertising for alcoholic drinks that implies improved physical performance or enhanced personal qualities is now prohibited in Ireland. Diageo, the company that now manufactures Guinness, says, "We never make any medical claims for our drinks." The production of Guinness, as with many beers, involves the use of isinglass made from fish. Isinglass is used as a thinning agent for settling out suspended matter in the vat. The isinglass is retained in the floor of the vat, but it is possible that minute quantities might be carried over into the beer. Varieties. Guinness Stout is available in a number of variants and strengths, which include Guinness Draught, sold in kegs, widget cans, and bottles, 4.1 to 4.3% alcohol by volume. The extra cold is served through a super cooler at 3.5 AA degrees Celsius. Guinness Original Extra Stout, 4.2 or 4.3% ABV in Ireland and the rest of Europe, 4.1% in Germany, 4.8% in Namibia and South Africa, 5% in the United States and Canada, and 6% in Australia and Japan. Guinness Foreign Extra Stout, 7.5% ABV version sold in Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, Asia, and the United States. The basis is an unfermented but hot Guinness wort extract shipped from Dublin, which is added to local ingredients and fermented locally. The strength can vary, for example, it is sold at 5% ABV in China, 6.5% ABV in Jamaica and East Africa, 6.8% in Malaysia, 7.5% in the United States, and 8% ABV in Singapore. In Nigeria a proportion of sorghum is used. Foreign Extra Stout is blended with a small amount of intentionally sour beer. It was previously known as West Indies Porter, then Extra Stout and finally Foreign Extra Stout. It was first made available in the UK in 1990. Guinness Special Export Stout, commissioned by John Martin of Belgium in 1912. The first variety of Guinness to be pasteurised, in 1930. 8% ABV. Guinness Bitter, an English-style bitter beer, 4.4% ABV. Guinness Extra Smooth, a smoother stout sold in Ghana, Cameroon and Nigeria, 5.5% ABV. Malta Guinness, a non-alcoholic sweet drink, produced in Nigeria and exported to the UK, East Africa, and Malaysia. Guinness Mid Strength, a low-alcohol stout test marketed in Limerick, Ireland in March 2006 and Dublin from May 2007, 2.8% ABV. Guinness Red, brewed in exactly the same way as Guinness except that the barley is only lightly roasted so that it produces a lighter, slightly fruitier red ale. Test marketed in Britain in February 2007, 4.1% ABV. 250 Anniversary Stout, released in the US, Australia and Singapore on April 24, 2009. 5% ABV. In October 2005, Guinness announced the Brewhouse Series, a limited edition collection of draft stouts available for roughly 6 months each. There were 3 beers in the series. Brew 39 was sold in Dublin from late 2005 until early 2006. It had the same alcohol content as Guinness Draught, used the same gas mix and settled in the same way, but had a slightly different taste. Many found it to be lighter in taste, somewhat closer to Beamish Stout than standard Irish Guinness. Took and Brew was introduced in May 2006. It was named after the cartoon toucan used in many Guinness advertisements. This beer had a crisper taste with a slightly sweet aftertaste due to its triple-hopped brewing process. North Star was introduced in October 2006 and sold until into late 2007. 3 million pints of North Star were sold in the latter half of 2007. Despite an announcement in June 2007 that the fourth brewhouse stout would be launched in October that year, no new beer appeared and, at the end of 2007, the brewhouse series appeared to have been quietly cancelled. In March 2006, Guinness introduced the Sergio in Britain. The Sergio is a plate-like electrical device meant for the home. It sends ultrasonic waves through a Guinness-filled pint glass to recreate the beer's surge and settle effect. The device works in conjunction with special cans of Sergio-ready Guinness. Guinness tried out a primitive version of this system in 1977 in New York. The idea was abandoned until 2003, when it began testing the Sergio in Japanese bars, most of which are too small to accommodate traditional keg and tap systems. Since then, the Sergio has been introduced to bars in Paris. Sergios are also in use in Australia, Singapore and Greece. The Sergio for the US market was announced on November 14, 2007. Plans were to make the unit available to bars only. Withdrawn Guinness variants include Guinness's Bright Lager, Guinness's Bright Ale, Guinness Light, Guinness XXX Extra Strong Stout, Guinness Cream Stout, Guinness Gold, Guinness Pilsner, Guinness Brewer Cubed, Guinness Shandy, and Guinness Special Light. Brewer Cubed was a wheat beer. It cost around £5 million to develop. For a short time in the late 1990s, Guinness produced the St James's Gate range of craft-style beers, available in a small number of Dublin pubs. The beers were Pilsner Gold, Wicked Red Ale, Wildcat Wheat Beer and Dark Angel Lager. A brewing byproduct of Guinness, Guinness yeast extract, was produced until the 1950s. In the UK, an horsepower Guinness sauce has recently been made available, manufactured by Heinz. Kraft also licenses the name for its barbecue sauce product, Bullseye Barbecue Sauce. In March 2010, Guinness began test marketing Guinness Black Lager, a new black lager, in Northern Ireland and Malaysia. As of September 2010, Guinness Black Lager is no longer readily available in Malaysia. In October 2010, Guinness began selling Foreign Extra Stout in 4 packs of bottles in the United States. Guinness Red Harvest Stout was introduced in September 2013. Sold in 14.9 ounces widget cans, 4.1% alcohol by volume. Inspired by the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, the seasonal Guinness Red Harvest Stout has a mildly sweet velvety taste and deep red hue. Crafted with a blend of lightly roasted barley and sweet Irish malt. Pouring and serving. What Diageo calls the perfect pint of draught Guinness is the product of a double pour, which according to the company should take 125.27 seconds. Guinness has promoted this wait with advertising campaigns such as Good Things Come to Those Who Wait. Despite this, Guinness has endorsed the use of ExactTap, marketed by Digital Dispense USA LLC, owned in a trust by its American inventor. The ExactTap is the fastest beer dispense system in the world and can deliver a perfectly presented Guinness, with no overfilling, in just 4 seconds. There are over 600 ExactTaps in use in Dublin stadia alone. The brewer recommends that draft Guinness should be served at 6 degrees Celsius, while extra cold Guinness should be served at 3.5 degrees Celsius. According to Esquire magazine, a pint of Guinness should be served in a slightly tulip-shaped pint glass. To begin the pour, the server holds the glass at a 45-degree angle below the tap and fills the glass 3/4 full. On the way out of the tap, the beer is forced at high speed through a 5-hole disc restrictor plate in the end of the tap, creating friction and forcing the creation of small nitrogen bubbles which form a creamy head. After allowing the initial pour to settle, the server fills the remainder of the glass until the head forms a slight dome over the top of the glass. In April 2010, Guinness redesigned the Guinness pint glass for the first time in a decade. The new glass is taller and narrower than the previous one and features a bevel design. The new glasses are planned to gradually replace the old ones. sinking bubbles. When Guinness is poured, the gas bubbles appear to travel downwards in the glass. The effect is attributed to drag. Bubbles that touch the walls of a glass are slowed in their travel upwards. Bubbles in the center of the glass are, however, free to rise to the surface, and thus form a rising column of bubbles. The rising bubbles create a current by the entrainment under the surrounding fluid. As beer rises in the center, the beer near the outside of the glass falls. This downward flow pushes the bubbles near the glass towards the bottom. Although the effect occurs in any liquid, it is particularly noticeable in any dark nitrogen stout, as the drink combines dark-colored liquid and light-colored bubbles. A study published in 2012 revealed that the effect is due to the particular shape of the glass coupled with the small bubble size found in stout beers. If the vessel widens with height, then bubbles will sink along the walls. This is the case for the standard pint glass. Conversely, in an anti-pint, bubbles will rise along the walls. Culinary uses: Guinness is frequently used as an ingredient in recipes, often to add a seemingly authentic Irish element to the menus of Irish-themed pubs in the United States, where it is stirred into everything from French toast to beef stew. A popular, authentic, Irish course featuring Guinness is the Guinness and steak pie. The recipe includes many common Irish herbs, as well as beef brisket, cheeses, and a can of Guinness. Another popular, though having questioned authenticity, is Guinness lamb stew. The recipe includes carrots, turnips, and pearl barley. And it uses 17 different ingredients. Guinness Stout's slightly burnt flavor, a result of brewing beer from roasted unmalted barley, gives this hearty lamb and vegetable stew a deep, rich flavor. If you can't find Guinness, or if you don't like it, substitute another dark beer. Ivy Manning, advertising: the Guinness harp motif is modeled on the Trinity College harp. It was adopted in 1862 by the then proprietor, Benjamin Lee Guinness. Harps have been a symbol of Ireland at least since the reign of Henry VIII. Guinness registered their harp as a trademark shortly after the passing of the Trademarks Registration Act of 1875. It faces right instead of left, and so can be distinguished from the Irish coat of arms. Since the 1930s, in the face of falling sales, Guinness has had a long history of marketing campaigns, from award-winning television advertisements to beer mats and posters. Before then, Guinness had almost no advertising, instead allowing for word of mouth to sell the product. Guinness's iconic stature is partly due to its advertising. The most notable and recognizable series of advertisements was created by S. H. Benson's advertising, primarily drawn by the artist John Gilroy, in the 1930s and 1940s. Benson created posters that included phrases such as "Guinness for strength," "Lovely day for a Guinness," "Guinness makes you strong," "My goodness my Guinness," and most famously, "Guinness is good for you." The posters featured Gilroy's distinctive artwork and more often than not featured animals such as a kangaroo, ostrich, seal, lion and notably a toucan, which has become as much a symbol of Guinness as the harp. Dorothy L. Sayers and Bobby Bevan, copywriters at Benson's, also worked on the campaign. A biography of Sayers notes that she created a sketch of a toucan and wrote several of the adverts in question. Guinness advertising paraphernalia, notably the pastiche booklets illustrated by Ronald Fearns, attract high prices on the collectible market. Many of the best-known Guinness television commercials of the 1970s and 1980s were created by British director, Len Fulford. In 1983, a conscious marketing decision was made to turn Guinness into a cult beer in the UK, amidst declining sales. The move halted the sales decline. The Guardian described the management of the brand: "They've spent years now building a brand that's in complete opposition to cheap lagers, session drinking and crowds of young men boozing in bars. They've worked very hard to help Guinness drinkers picture themselves as twinkly-eyed, Byronic barroom intellectuals, sitting quietly with a pint and dreaming of poetry and impossibly lovely redheads running barefoot across the peat. You have a pint or two of Guinness with a slim volume of Yeats, not 8 mates and a 19-pint bender which ends in tattoos, A&D, the ED and herpes from a hen party." In the late 1980s and early 1990s in the UK, there was a multi-award winning series of darkly humorous adverts, featuring actor Rutger Hauer, with the theme Pure Genius, extolling its qualities in brewing and target market. The 1994–1995 anticipation campaign, featuring actor Joe McKinney dancing to Gaglian by Perez Prado while his pints settled, became a legend in Ireland and put the song to #1 in the charts for several weeks. The advertisement was also popular in the UK where the song reached #2. In 2000, Guinness's 1999 advertisement Surfer was named the best television commercial of all time in a UK poll conducted by the Sunday Times and Channel 4. This advertisement is inspired by the famous 1980s Guinness TV and cinema ad, Big Wave, centered on a surfer riding a wave while a bikini-clad sunbather takes photographs. The 1980s advertisement not only remained a popular iconic image in its own right but also entered the Irish cultural memory through inspiring a well-known line in Christy Moore's 1985 song Delirium Tremens. Surfer was produced by the advertising agency Abbott Mead Vickers BBDO. The advertisement can be downloaded from their website. Guinness won the 2001 Clio Award as the Advertiser of the Year, citing the work of 5 separate ad agencies around the world. In 2003 the Guinness TV campaign featuring Tom Crean won the Gold Shark Award at the International Advertising Festival of Ireland, while in 2005 their Irish Christmas campaign won a Silver Shark. This TV ad has been run every Christmas since 2003 and features pictures of snow falling in places around Ireland, evoking the James Joyce story The Dead, finishing at St James's Gate Brewery with the line "Even at the home of the black stuff they dream of a white one." Their UK commercial Noach Levy, first broadcast in October 2005, was the most awarded commercial worldwide in 2006. In it, 3 men drink a pint of Guinness, then begin to both walk and evolve backward. Their reverse evolution passes through an ancient Homo sapiens, a monkey, a flying lemur, a pangolin, an ichthyosaur and a velociraptor until finally settling on a mud skipper drinking dirty water, which then expresses its disgust at the taste of the stuff, followed by the line "Good things come to those who wait." This was later modified to have different endings to advertise Guinness Extra Cold, often shown as break bumpers at the beginning and end of commercial breaks. The second endings show either the Homo sapiens being suddenly frozen in a block of ice, the ichthyosaurs being frozen while swimming, or the pool of muddy water freezing over as the mud skipper takes a sip, freezing his tongue to the surface. 2 further advertisements in 2006 and early 2007, Hands, and St. Patrick's Hands were created by animator Michael Schlingmann for Abbott Mead Vickers BBDO. They feature a pair of hands, animated in stop motion under a rostrum camera. Hands focuses on the 119.53 seconds it takes to pour a pint, and St. Patrick's Hands is a spoof of River Dance, with the animated hands doing the dancing. Guinness's 2007 advertisement, directed by Nikolai Fugajig and filmed in Argentina, is entitled Tipping Point. It involves a large-scale domino chain reaction and, with a budget of £10 million, is the most expensive advertisement by the company so far. And in 2009, the To Arthur advertisement, which started with 2 friends realizing the long history, hail each other by lifting up their glass and saying to Arthur. The hailing slowing spread throughout the bar itself to the streets outside, which accumulates to around the world. The advertisement ends with the voiceover, "Join the worldwide celebration of a man named Arthur." The event is now known as Guinness Arthur's Day. Arthur's Day is a series of events and celebrations taking place around the world to celebrate the life and legacy of Arthur Guinness and the much-loved Guinness beer which Arthur brought to the world. It took place for the 3rd time at 1759 on September 22, 2011. Worldwide sales of Guinness in Ireland and the United Kingdom declined 7% in 2006. Despite this, Guinness still accounts for more than a quarter of all beer sold in Ireland. Guinness has a significant share of the African beer market, where it has been sold since 1827. About 40% of worldwide total Guinness volume is brewed and sold in Africa, with foreign extra stout the most popular variant. The Michael Power advertising campaign was a critical success for Guinness in Africa, running for nearly a decade before being replaced in 2006 with Guinness Greatness. The beer is brewed under license internationally in several countries, including Nigeria, the Bahamas, Canada, Cameroon, Kenya, Uganda, Namibia and Indonesia. The unfermented but hopped Guinness wort extract is shipped from Dublin and blended with beer brewed locally. The UK is the only sovereign state to consume more Guinness than Ireland, and the third largest Guinness drinking nation being Nigeria, followed by the USA. The United States consumed more than 950,000 hectolitres of Guinness in 2010. Merchandising: the Guinness Storehouse is a popular tourist attraction at St James's Gate Brewery in Dublin, where a self-guided tour includes an account of the ingredients used to make the stout, and a description of how it is made. Visitors can sample the smells of each Guinness ingredient in the tasting rooms. The tasting rooms are coloured with a unique lighting design that emits Guinness gold and black branding. A pint of Guinness is offered which the visitor may pour after a demonstration by one of the staff. There are videos showing how Guinness is tested by a panel of tasters and the visitor is instructed in tasting the beer. The tour includes such items as the historical coopering trade within Guinness, a section dedicated to advertising and merchandising by Guinness, and a section dedicated to historical artifacts and footage relating to Guinness. The tour finishes with a pint of ɡɪnɨs in the Gravity Bar. 2 other bars, a coffee shop and a restaurant are available to visitors during the tour, and a range of Guinness merchandise is available to purchase. The Guinness Book of Records started as a Guinness marketing giveaway from an idea of its then managing director, Sir Hugh Beaver. Guinness World Records Limited was owned by Guinness plc, subsequently Diageo, until 2001. Speculation: the book The Thirsty Dragon by Lynn Ebenezer claims that Guinness originated in North Wales and that Arthur Price, a Welshman, took the recipe with him to Ireland, where he hired a servant called Richard Guinness, whose son later opened a brewery. See also, Guinness family, Guinness World Records, references. Further reading. External links: official website, selection of Guinness commercials including Note Love, Dancing Man, Surfer, Moriarty, Philip. Guinness. 60 symbols. Brady Heron for the University of Nottingham. A lighting design of the tasting rooms in Guinness Storehouse.